Hi there, in this video we're going to learn how to solve inequalities with multiplication or division. First thing you need to know is the multiplication division properties of inequality. Those are whenever you multiply or divide both sides by the same positive number, then the inequality remains true. So in order to solve, do the opposite operation of what's being done to the variable on both sides of the inequality that you have. So if you have 3x, So if you have 3x, okay, you're going to do the opposite, which is division. If you have x over 4, x over 4, you're going to do the opposite, which would be multiplication, okay? So whatever is being done to x, you're going to do the opposite. So here is my first problem. I have 8x is less than or equal to 40. So the first thing that I'm going to do on both sides of this equation, or not equation, an inequality, this is an inequality. So both sides of this inequality is I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Let me fix that. I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Why? Because if I look to see what's being done to x here, if I look to see what is being done to x, multiplication is being done to x, right? So if multiplication is being done to x, I have to do the opposite, which will be division, which I'm going to show with a fraction bar. Okay, now when I do this, my 8's here, they cancel out, and I'm left with x on the left. X on the left is less than or equal to 40 divided by 8, which gets me this 5. Okay, now, when you go to check, okay, you're going to plug in any number that is less than or equal to 5. This is where things get a little bit confusing for some people. This is technically read as x is any number less than or equal to 5. Okay, so an example of that would be 0. 0 is less than or equal to 5. So instead of x, I'm going to plug in 0. So 8 times 0 is less than or equal to 40. Let's see if that's true. If I solve, I get 0 is less than or equal to 40. Yes, that is true. Okay, here is my next example. I have d divided by 2 is greater than 7. Okay, so again, I have division. The opposite of division would be multiplication. So, or the multiplication property of inequality. So, instead of dividing by 2, I just said I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Now, if you're more comfortable with multiplying this side by 2 over 1, just because here is a fraction, that's fine. Cancel out your 2's, and you are left with d is greater than positive 14. Because 7 times 2 gets you that 14. And now here we can actually check. So when we go to check, d is all numbers greater than 14. So when I check, I'm going to plug in any number that's greater than 14. So I'm going to plug in, I don't know, 20. So instead of d, I'm going to plug in 20. 20 divided by 2 should be greater than 7, which 20 divided by 2 is actually 10, which is greater than 7. So that does check out. Okay, so your answer is d is greater than 14. This is your answer. And then your check is down here at the bottom. Now, this is very, very important. Very, very, very important. Okay, I don't know how many times I need to say it. So the important rule is when you multiply or divide both sides by the same negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol. Again, when you multiply or divide both sides by the same negative number, it has to be the same negative number while you are solving, okay, then you must flip the inequality symbol. So let me show you an example of that. I have negative 2g is less than 10. Okay, what is being done to g? Multiplication. What is the opposite of multiplication? Division. Right? So instead of multiplying by negative 2, I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both sides. Bells and whistles should be going off right now. Why? Because I divided both sides by the same negative number. And when you divide both sides by the same negative number, this inequality symbol needs to flip. Okay? It is going to flip. Instead of a less than symbol, it is going to be a greater than symbol. And then when you go to rewrite this, 10 divided by negative 2 gets you a negative 5. Negative 2g divided by negative 2, that cancels out and you're left with this g. So your final answer is g is greater than negative 5. Why do you flip it? Because if you don't, then your check isn't going to work. So let's see. Let's check and make sure that it works. This is why it's a good idea to do your check, even if you're mentally doing your check, because if you didn't flip the inequality symbol, your check wouldn't work out. So instead of g here, I'm going to plug in any number greater than negative 5. So a number greater than negative 5 is, I don't know, any positive number. So I'll say positive 1. So I plug in a positive 1. I have negative 2, which is less than 10. Okay, so negative 2 is less than 10. That does check out. Okay, and then here is my final example. Okay, in my final example, I have x divided by negative 3 is less than or equal to 4. So I'm just going to rewrite this so that I can start solving. All right, so so here I originally have, I should say, x is dividing by negative 3. So in the original problem, you have division by negative 3. Opposite of dividing by negative 3 would be to multiply both sides by the negative 3. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3. On the left, since it's a fraction, if it's easier for you to put it over 1, then put it over 1. Negative 3s, they cancel out, and you are left with x is bells and whistles again. Look at this. I'm dividing both sides by the same negative number. Not dividing, I should say multiplying. Multiplying both sides by the same negative number. So, back to that important rule. Okay, when you multiply or divide both sides by the same negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol. So this symbol here is going to flip and become, instead of less than or equal to, it'll be greater than or equal to. Okay, and then 4 times negative 3, which gets you a negative 12. So your answer here is x is greater than or equal to negative 12. Now, when you go to check, I'm going to plug in any number that is greater than or equal to negative 12. So an example of that would be, I don't know, 0, right? 0 is technically greater than negative 12. So I'm going to plug in 0 for this x. So 0 divided by negative 3 should be less than or equal to 4, which ends up checking out. 0 is less than or equal to 4. Okay, and concluding thoughts. You want to look at what's being done to the variable, and then you want to do the opposite operation on both sides. If you're multiplying or dividing both sides by the same negative number, okay, you must flip the inequality symbol. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope we learned how to solve inequalities with multiplication and division.